Hi, it's Scott, ROCKFILE, back with another podcast review for you. On National Superhero Day, I took one for the team and rewatched Green Lantern. I remember seeing this in the theater in 2011. I think I was working in Charleston, West Virginia, I believe, when it came out. We did some giveaways. I remember giving away the Blu-Ray, which has the extended cut, 9 extra minutes. There's a bad thing about that, but we'll talk about that in just a second. So this is a much maligned, very much, one of the worst superhero movies of all time is what a lot of people say. But rewatching it the other day, it wasn't terrible. I mean, it's not great, but it feels like two separate movies that have been mashed together. It feels like it's not consistent through all the way through, but there is some really good stuff in it. And the Green Lantern stuff is pretty accurate to the Green Lantern mythology. I was a bit of a Green Lantern fan growing up. I love Mark Strong playing Sinestro. I thought he was fantastic. I also thought it was funny that Taika Waititi and Ryan Reynolds both star in this movie and Free Guy and in Marvel movies. And anyway, for those that don't know, Green Lantern is a pretty big DC Universe character. Martin Campbell directed this movie. He directed GoldenEye and Casino Royale, so he's directed some good movies. He also directed The Mask of Zorro, or The Mark of Zorro. Everything on paper probably looked great. You had the team that went on to work on the CW and the Arrowverse and all that. I mean, you had some good actors in here. You had Ryan Reynolds, Blake Lively. They kind of met on this, and this is why they became a couple. Peter Sarsgaard, Mark Strong, Angela Bassett, Tim Robbins. Taika's not mentioned on here. Edited by Stuart Baird. He was an editor on some big action movies in the 80s and also became a director and directed a few movies, but I guess he's back to editing. So in 2011, they spent $200 million to make this a big budget, big summer box office movie, and it grossed $220 million. When you make a movie for about $200 million in marketing costs and everything else, you need to gross about $500 million to call it even. So it lost money for the studio, approximately $75 million estimated, because you don't really know, but anyway. And so watching it now, even Ryan Reynolds has killed off this version of himself in the final or the second Deadpool movie. During the extra credit scene or the deleted scenes, he goes through and he writes the timeline in many ways, and one of the ways is killing Ryan Reynolds, who just finished the script for Green Lantern. I thought the movie wasn't terrible. As superhero movies go, it's not bad. The effects are pretty good. It's got decent pacing. It tells an origin story that's pretty good. One of the bad things about the extended version is it gives you more in the beginning when he's a kid and you see his father die in the plane crash. And then not long into the movie, they use that. So obviously when they cut it out of the movie, they use that part in kind of a flashback scene because he kind of flames out when he's flying in a big jet because of this. But we had just seen it in a flashback, and then we see it in just a couple scenes later, and it's really too close. Sometimes re-editing these extended versions, not calling it a director's cut, that really did just slap some deleted scenes back into this. So if you rewatch Green Lantern, I would say don't watch the extended version, because it really does feel like they just slapped some stuff on the beginning and some other stuff in it. That being said, like I said, as superhero movies go, it's not terrible. We've seen a lot more boring ones. I mean, this is a very subdued version of Ryan Reynolds. He's playing it straight. He does a pretty good job playing it. He's kind of a Tom Cruise, I'm late, but I'm still cute and I'm really good, so it's cool kind of character. He's got real chemistry with Blake Lively that carried over into real life. I think Peter Sarsgaard does a good job given an almost impossible task to play this character who's infected by an immense intelligence and power and has to kind of go from being a bumbling idiot to ultra powerful. I mean, he pulls it off. It's not extremely well done, but I don't think it's his fault. I think he did really great. Having Angela Bassett play Amanda Waller. I mean, these characters have all appeared in other DC movies played by other people, unfortunately, because this movie didn't do so well. They were planning a trilogy. There's an after credit scene that shows Sinestro getting the yellow ring. I'm sorry about spoilers. This movie's been out for a long time. You should have watched it by now. And it's obviously very famous, to put it, infamous, I guess I should say. Anyway, they were going to use the yellow ring and Hal talks him out of it. But at the end, he does grab the yellow ring because I guess he wants to be all powerful, and it takes him over. And that was going to be the second movie of the trilogy. I think it would have been great. Mark Strong was a great Sinestro. Played it straight, looked like him, played him. I mean, he played it just like the comic. I thought that was great. Parts of Green Lantern's power about being able to manifest machine guns or big fists or whatever, it's hard to pull that off. I think they did as fine a job as you can, but I think there's a bit of a suspension of disbelief that maybe they should have done it a little differently. And I don't know how. I mean, I think they pulled it off. If you're a Green Lantern fan, I don't see how you'd be horribly, horribly disappointed in this film, other than it's a 3 out of 5 superhero movie, 3 out of 5 stars kind of superhero movie. Again, Martin Campbell may have been slightly out of his depth doing a superhero movie, but he knows his way around the action, and the action has weight and power, even though a lot of it is CG. This movie relies way too much on CG, but then again, how we've got aliens and others on exotic planets doing crazy things with green power. I don't know how else they could have done it without doing a lot of CG, but this is 2011. We're talking about 13 years ago, weren't quite as adept, but what they did was fine. And again, you've got a non-science fiction kind of guy, non-fantasy guy directing it, so everything has a very grounded feel to it. Is it my favorite movie of all time? No. Is it the least of Ryan Reynolds' superhero movies? No. That Wolverine movie where they wouldn't let Deadpool talk, which was just the antithesis of the character, that would be worse. The main reason I watched this, I've owned a copy forever. I saw it in the theater. I think I watched it once at home to watch that extended version. I've never watched it again. So I was goofing around on HamiltonBook.com. They get mentioned a lot in my podcast for them not to be a sponsor. Anyway, I actually have something in my shopping cart right now. A couple of movies I wanted to watch and review for a while just appeared on HamiltonBook.com. It's funny how that happens. Anyway, they had the Canadian Steelbook. And I'm like, wouldn't it be awesome if I ever meet Ryan Reynolds to hand him, he'll think I'm handing him a Deadpool Steelbook, which I own, but I would hand him like a Green Lantern just to see what he would write on it. So anyway, I picked it up. It was less than $5. And I picked it up just to have it on the shelf and just to have something to give to Ryan Reynolds if I ever meet him, if he ever comes to Alaska or whatever. So anyway, so I bought a copy and I'm looking at movies to watch, and it's National Superhero Day, and I posted a funny picture of Deadpool and Green Lantern and said I have choices, and I really was going to watch something else, and I was like, you know what? I don't even, when I started watching Green Lantern, I didn't remember any of it. This is a movie I thought I remembered like from beginning to end, and there was all sorts of things I had forgotten. I think he's got real chemistry with his friends and the romance. I think that all works because of Ryan Reynolds. I think the movie works in the end because of Martin Campbell, but you got a couple of different tones. If we could have just kept it to Green Lantern learning how to become Green Lantern, that probably wouldn't have worked on its own. But then we've crafted not only a story where this scientist is becoming the superhuman being, but we have this superhuman entity that, I mean, even Marvel didn't get into something this big until several movies into the Marvel universe. It's a giant planet swallowing kind of thing. And it's just, you have to suspend quite a lot of disbelief that this thing is going to come down to Earth and a green fist is going to knock it back into space. Anyway, if you're a Green Lantern fan, I think this is a fine movie. I've watched the DC cartoons and they've been fine. Turns out that they're going to have a Green Lantern of a sort in the upcoming Superman with James Gunn. They announced that Nathan Fillion will play one of the older versions of Green Lantern, one of the different, I don't want to mention the name because it's spoilers and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, Green Lantern, there's a reason why DC did not continue down this path, and they freed up Ryan Reynolds to be able to make Deadpool, and the rest is history. Deadpool 3 or Deadpool versus Wolverine comes out, or with Wolverine, whatever they're calling it, comes out this summer, and he's doing just fine in that role. He's got some other movies coming out. What is that? If? That looks cute. But anyway, no more Green Lantern. It'll be a reboot kind of thing with a whole different character and a whole different version. The Hal Jordan is probably dead for now, and it's probably not a bad thing. If you have an interest and you've watched things like Madam Web or Blue Beetle, this is probably on the level with those. But then you got Ryan Reynolds and a great cast, so maybe it's better. You be the judge. It wasn't one of my favorite movies, and I don't know that I will ever pull it out again. The idea to go with the CGI suits and everything probably wasn't the best idea either, but Some weird choices were made, things we don't do in superhero movies now. A lot of things were learned from this movie. So as far as that historical aspect go, check out Green Lantern. It's available now on most streaming services, and you can get it on HamiltonBook.com for under $5 at a Canadian Steelbook. I'm Scott. I'm ROCKFILE. Thanks for listening to this podcast. I've got some great ones on the way. Thank you for listening.